The stench of blood, smoke, and decay clung to the air like a second skin. Rain drizzled through broken hospital windows, mixing with the crimson trails on the floor. They weren't fresh. Not anymore. But the tension in the air made them feel new. Reese Carter, once a sergeant, now a scavenger, crouched behind a tipped-over gurney. His rifle rested in his hands, finger near the trigger but never twitching. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe too loud. He waited. Across the corridor, a tall figure stepped through the shadows. Maya Torres, ex-EMT turned fighter, lowered her pistol when she saw him. "We clear," she whispered. Reese nodded. "For now. But they're swarming downstairs." "Any sign of Jess?" Still no word. Maya bit her lip. Jess, the youngest of them, had gone off to search for insulin. It had been nearly 40 minutes. Too long in a place like this. Every second you weren't moving meant the dead were getting closer. A groan echoed through the hallway, wet and ragged. Reese stood. "Time's up. We go." They moved fast, boots slapping wet tile. Behind them, something howled. In the cafeteria, the rest of the group huddled behind barricades, makeshift walls of overturned tables, vending machines, and wire mesh. For in total, including Reese and Maya, Tomas, a mechanic with steady hands and a nervous twitch. Elise, a lawyer who hadn't touched a briefcase in 2 years but carried a machete like it was an extension of her arm. Then there was the stranger. He had no name. Just a long coat, a sharp knife, and a voice like gravel. He'd saved Elise 2 nights ago from a swarm, but never gave more than a sentence. Reese didn't trust him. "You see Jess?" Tomas asked, eyes wide. Maya shook her head. "We can't wait. She could be alive. She could be dead," Reese snapped. "We stay, we all die." Then the radio crackled. It had been dead for days. No signal, just static. Now, a voice bled through the noise, distorted but urgent. "Sanctuary. Hollow Crest, coordinates, survivors welcome." Everyone froze. "Play it again," Maya said. Reese twisted the knob. Static. Then. "Repeat." Hollow Crest, signal strength fading. Tomas stared. "That's north. Past the ridge." "That's suicide," Elise said. "No one's crossed the ridge in months." "But what if it's real?" Tomas whispered. "A real safe zone. We haven't had contact like that in weeks." Reese didn't answer. He looked at the stranger. The man shrugged. "Could be a trap. Or a chance," Maya countered. "And we're not going to get another." A sharp bang made everyone jump. Jess burst through the double doors, her jacket ripped and blood on her hands. She was breathing hard, clutching a small black pouch. "I got it," she cried, holding up the insulin. Behind her, the dead screamed. Reese pulled her in, slammed the doors shut, and dropped the metal bar. "Time to move." They exited through the emergency chute, sliding into the alley behind the hospital. Rain washed the gore from their clothes as they ran through narrow streets. The city was a graveyard, cars rusted into skeletons, buildings sagging like tired giants. No one spoke. Until they reached the edge of town. From there, the ridge loomed in the distance, miles of elevation, dense forests, and winding roads crawling with death. "Hollow Crest is over that," Maya said, hands on her knees. Reese studied the horizon. Then the group. "We go at dawn," he decided. "Rest here tonight. Post watch." "Who made you boss?" Elise snapped. "No one. But if we vote every time a choice comes, we'll be dead before lunch." She didn't argue further. As night fell, a fire sparked low in a barrel. The flames danced against their tired faces. Rain eased. The stranger took first watch. Maya sat beside Reese. "You think that place is real?" He didn't answer right away. "I think the only thing worse than hoping," he said finally, "is not hoping at all." From the shadows, the stranger listened. And far beyond the ridge, something stirred. End of part 1. Let me know when you're ready for part 2. Fog curled through the trees like a living thing. It clung to the ridge's edge, thick and silent, swallowing up the narrow road ahead. Reese didn't like it. Fog meant reduced visibility. Reduced visibility meant surprises. And surprises got people killed. The group had left at dawn, boots crunching over wet gravel. Jess walked beside Maya, pale and quiet. The insulin had steadied her, but Reese knew she was running on borrowed time. Tomas kept glancing behind them, a nervous tic that hadn't stopped since they left the hospital. Elise walked near the front, machete drawn. The stranger trailed them all. We should stop and scout ahead, Maya said quietly. No, Reese answered, eyes scanning the white void ahead. We move. Slowly. Together. A rustle from the left made Tomas jump. That was not the wind. Reese raised a hand. Everyone froze. A shape flickered in the fog, tall, thin, hunched. But it didn't shuffle like the dead. It moved with purpose. Reese's jaw clenched. Eyes open. We're not alone. They pressed forward, ears straining for sound beneath the muffling fog. The road narrowed where collapsed cars and fallen trees blocked the path. One by one, they climbed over the wreckage. Reese went first, then helped Jess across. That's when they heard the sound again, footsteps. Careful. Deliberate. Then a voice. Easy now. No sudden moves. Reese whirled. 3 figures emerged from the fog, armed. Their clothes were patchwork, military armor mixed with scavenged leather and civilian jackets. Their leader was a woman, rifle lowered but ready. We don't want trouble, she said. We just want to talk. Reese didn't lower his weapon. Then talk fast. We've been following your group since the hospital. Thought you might be heading toward Hollowcrest. Reese narrowed his eyes. Why? Because we are too. One of the strangers, a man with a scar across his neck, smirked. Safety in numbers, right? Maya stepped forward. We don't know you. And you don't know what's ahead, the woman said. The ridge is crawling. Half the roads are blocked. Half the towns are burning. You'll never make it without help. Elise moved beside Reese. She's right. We could use the numbers. Or they could be leading us into a trap, Reese muttered. The stranger finally spoke. Let them walk with us. Not ahead. Not behind. Beside. First sign of betrayal, we handle it. Everyone looked at him. He hadn't spoken more than 5 words since the hospital. But in that moment, his gravel voice cut through the tension. Reese gave a single nod. Fine. You walk with us. But you don't lead. Together, the expanded group pressed forward into the ridge. Hours passed in tense silence. The fog didn't lift. At one point, they passed a burned-out van. Inside were bones and melted plastic. Nothing had survived. Tomas whispered to Reese, You think that woman's telling the truth? Does it matter? We're trusting strangers. We're always trusting strangers. You think any of us were friends before this started? Tomas didn't answer. They reached a narrowing trail where the forest pressed close. The sound of crows echoed overhead. The lead woman, she said her name was Riley, paused. This is the fastest way, she said. But it's not clean. Reese raised an eyebrow. Define not clean. Riley didn't answer. She just pointed ahead. Bodies. Dozens of them, hanging from the trees like grotesque ornaments. Rotted, skeletal, some fresh. Some were wrapped in barbed wire. Others had signs stapled to their chests with crude writing. Traitors. Infected. Thieves. Jess gagged. Maya pulled her close. Who did this? Elise asked. Riley kept walking. Welcome to the ridge. They pushed through the corridor of corpses, stepping around traps, wires, pits, sharpened spikes. Someone had fortified this route, but it wasn't military work. It was personal. Vicious. The fog finally thinned as they reached a cliffside overlook. Below them, the valley stretched, green, shadowed, and silent. In the distance, just visible on the horizon, was a small cluster of buildings surrounded by fencing and distant smoke trails. Hollow Crest, Riley said. We're 2 days away. A low groan rolled across the wind. They weren't alone. From the treeline below, dozens of shapes emerged. Zombies, torn, relentless, climbing toward the trail. We keep moving. Reese shouted. Now. They ran, adrenaline cutting through fatigue. Tomas stumbled, nearly fell, but Elise grabbed him. Maya fired behind them, bullets cracking through skulls. The stranger moved like a ghost, knife flashing in the fog. One of Riley's men screamed. The horde took him. They didn't stop. They made it to a small bunker, concrete and steel, nestled into the hillside. Riley slammed the door behind them and locked it with a heavy bolt. Panting, bruised, and bloodied, the group collapsed against the walls. We lost Derek, she said. No time to grieve, Reese muttered. We need to sleep in shifts. They'll come back. Jess leaned on Maya, eyes heavy. Why does it feel like the dead aren't the only ones chasing us? No one answered. Outside, the fog thickened again. And somewhere in the mist, someone watched with binoculars. End of part 2. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. The bunker was cold and smelled of rust and mildew. Moisture dripped from the ceiling in slow, rhythmic beats, like a ticking clock. Reese sat at the entrance, rifle across his lap, watching the sealed metal door. His fingers hadn't stopped twitching since they bolted it shut hours ago. No one slept well. Riley's group had lost a man, Derek, and they'd barely escaped the horde. Tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. No one trusted anyone, but they needed each other now more than ever. Reese glanced back at the others. Maya cleaned her pistol beside Jess, who looked feverish again. Tomas slept in a corner, curled up like a child. Elise paced, muttering quietly under her breath. Then there was the stranger, sharpening his blade without making a sound. And Riley, watching Reese. We need to talk, she said. Reese didn't move. About what? This alliance. That's a strong word for what this is. She sat beside him, stretching her legs. Then let's call it what it is, a temporary ceasefire. Reese glanced sideways. Until Hollow Crest. After that, she shrugged. Everyone for themselves. Sounds honest. Rare these days. It's not honesty, she said. It's survival. By morning, the rain had returned, light but persistent. They moved out in silence, avoiding roads, sticking to the high trails. Reese let Riley take lead but never let her out of sight. The stranger moved in the middle, eyes always scanning the woods. At one point, Jess stumbled. Maya caught her. She's burning up, Maya said. The insulin helped, but it's not enough. She needs rest. We stop, we die, Elise said. That's the rule now. She's a kid. She's a liability. Riley stepped in. There's an outpost ahead. Was used by traders before everything fell apart. We rest there, one night. Then we move. Reese hesitated. We rest, he said finally. But no fires. No noise. The outpost was little more than a 2-story wooden building buried in the trees, overgrown and leaning. But it had walls, doors, and most importantly, distance from the undead. Inside, Reese and the stranger secured the perimeter. Riley's remaining man, Colt, posted at the back exit. Maya tended to Jess upstairs while Tomas scavenged for supplies. It seemed almost peaceful. Until they noticed someone was missing. Elise? Reese called. No answer. Riley shook her head. She was here a few minutes ago. The group split, searching room to room. Reese found her outside the outpost, near the edge of the tree line, kneeling beside a rusted satellite dish, quietly muttering into a small, battery-powered radio. "Elise," Reese said. "What are you doing?" She froze. Then, slowly, she turned. "You're going to want to hear this." Inside, everyone gathered around the radio. Static. Then a voice, different from before. Male. Calm. Repeat, Hollow Crest is secure. Only verified groups allowed entrance. You are being watched. Survivors must prove value. No mercy for the weak or the sick. Tomas paled. That doesn't sound like a sanctuary. That sounds like a fortress. Reese stared at Elise. Where did you get that signal? She hesitated. I've been tracking broadcasts. Since before we met. You knew about Hollow Crest? Only rumors. But I thought, maybe they'd still be human. Maya snapped. You thought they'd save us, but they're judging us. Jess coughed hard, clutching her side. Maya held her close, glaring at Elise. What if we're walking straight into something worse than the undead? Maya asked. We don't know that, Riley said. We don't not know it, Reese countered. The stranger finally spoke. Then we send someone ahead. Scout it out. One person. Alone. Everyone turned to him. That's suicide, Tomas said. No, Reese replied slowly. It's smart. He looked at Riley. Would you do it? She looked surprised. Then nodded. I will. That night, Riley prepped quietly. No one slept. Tension rose again, filling every breath. Before leaving, she knelt beside Jess and handed her a canteen. I've seen kids tougher than most soldiers, she said softly. You'll make it. She looked at Reese. If I don't come back in 2 days, go south. Avoid Hollow Crest. Reese gave a tight nod. Good luck. She vanished into the woods like smoke. Hours passed. Then morning. Then afternoon. No sign of her. Colt, Riley's remaining man, grew restless. She should have radioed. She would have radioed. She's smart, Reese said. She'll make contact. But Elise looked worried. Jess lay fevered again. Maya's hands trembled as she tried to cool her with wet cloth. She won't last 2 days, Maya whispered. We have to make a decision. Stay here, or move. Reese didn't answer. Then the outpost lights flickered. The power, long dead, buzzed to life. Tomas jumped. What the? The radio crackled. A voice. Male. Smooth. We see you. Then static. Reese turned pale. How? The stranger was already moving to the door. Outside, floodlights blinked on in the distance, unnaturally bright in the woods. A humming sound rolled over the hill. Maya looked to Reese. Was that Hollow Crest? No, he said. It was something else. End of part 3. Let me know when you're ready for part 4. The outpost's walls trembled under the sound, low, mechanical, unnatural. Not undead. Not survivors. Something else. Reese held his breath as the buzzing grew louder. Everyone stood frozen, weapons ready. Outside, the woods were bathed in flickering floodlight beams, cutting through fog like searchlights in a prison yard. What the hell is that? Tomas whispered. Maya pulled Jess tighter to her chest. That's not Hollow Crest. That's a warning. The radio hissed again. Another voice, calm, male, with a clinical coldness. This is Control Group Echo 7. You are in restricted quarantine territory. Surrender any infected for extraction. You have 2 minutes to comply. Elise backed away from the window, panic flooding her face. That's not a rescue team. That's a purge unit. Reese muttered, "How would you know that?" She didn't answer. Colt raised his rifle. "If they want Jess, they'll have to go through me." "Everyone calm down," Reese snapped. "We don't know what they want." "Yes, we do," Maya shouted. They saw her heat signature. "She's sick. That's all they need." The humming stopped. Silence. Then, a bang on the front door. 3 slow knocks. Reese moved to the peephole. Nothing. He turned to the others. "Basement. Now." The group scrambled down into the outpost's crawlspace, tight, dark, lined with dust and cobwebs. Tomas pulled the hatch closed behind them just as the door above exploded inward with a deafening blast. Boots stormed the building. Heavy. Precise. Trained. Jess whimpered in Maya's arms. They listened as voices echoed from above. Not yelling, speaking in low, composed tones. "Scan this room. Check for vitals. Tag and clear." A whirring sound followed, like drones. Someone stepped directly above them, metal boots creaking. Then, quiet again. Reese mouthed, "Don't move." The floor above groaned, and then the sound of someone descending the stairs. Elisa's hand gripped her knife so tightly her knuckles went white. Then, the boots stopped. A faint mechanical beep. Then the sound of a drone lifting off. "We have movement outside. Pull back to the ridge. Leave the rest." Moments later, the soldiers were gone. They stayed hidden for 2 hours before Reese opened the hatch. Upstairs, the outpost was wrecked. Holes in the walls. Scorch marks on the floor. The radio was shattered. The power was dead again. But they'd left something behind. A small, blinking disc, no bigger than a coin. Tomas reached for it. "Don't touch it," Reese warned. "It's a tracker." Maya exhaled. They knew exactly where we were. Elise looked shaken. That wasn't Holocrest. That was Black Zone security. They don't save people. They contain threats. They ran experiments back when the outbreak started. Reese turned to her. "You've seen them before." Elise hesitated. "My brother, he didn't make it. But I know what they do." Colt slammed his fist against the wall. "Riley went into that. She's probably already dead." "No," Reese said. "She's smarter than that. She led us into this." Colt shouted. "She brought them down on us." "Or she warned them off," Maya snapped back. "She risked her life to scout ahead." "I say we go to Holocrest now," Tomas said. "We're wasting time." "We don't know what's waiting there," Reese replied. "We know what's waiting here," Maya said, gesturing to the ruined walls. "We're sitting ducks." They packed quickly, leaving before the sun fully set. Jess could barely walk, her fever spiking. Reese and Maya took turns carrying her. The stranger remained silent, but his knife never left his hand. As they reached a ridgeline trail, Elise spoke up. "There's an old maintenance tunnel 2 miles ahead. It bypasses the road into Holocrest. Underground. It's risky, but it might get us close without detection." "Why haven't you mentioned this before?" Reese asked. "Because it's filled with traps. And worse." Maya frowned. "Define worse." "People. Ones who stayed down there too long." Reese nodded grimly. "Then that's the way we go." Night fell hard. They reached the tunnel entrance just before midnight, a rusted steel hatch half buried in the dirt. Faded warning signs hung crooked on nearby posts. Reese forced it open. A wave of rotted air poured out. Inside, the darkness was thick and absolute. Tomas gagged. "This is a terrible idea." "Keep your lights low," Reese said. "No sound unless you have to." They entered. The tunnel swallowed them whole. Inside, the air was dense, clinging to their skin. Pipes lined the walls, many burst open, leaking thick moisture that smelled like mold and fuel. Strange markings were scratched into the walls, symbols, handprints, words like "they watch," and "no exit." Something scurried just out of light range. Then they heard breathing. Not theirs. Reese raised his hand, signaling silence. A figure stepped from a shadowed corner, tall, cloaked in rags, face hidden by a gas mask with cracked lenses. In one hand, it held a jagged blade made from welded scrap. It pointed at them, then turned and walked deeper into the tunnel. Elise whispered, "He wants us to follow." Reese looked at Maya. "We don't have a choice." End of Part 4. Let me know when you're ready for Part 5, Into the Hollow. The masked figure moved ahead in silence, footsteps echoing off rusted metal walls. Reese kept close behind, his rifle raised but not aimed. The tunnel's stale air grew colder with every step, as if the earth itself rejected the presence of the living. Jess stirred weakly in Maya's arms, mumbling incoherent words. Her fever burned hotter. They had hours, maybe less. Elise whispered, "We shouldn't follow him. We don't know who or what he is. Do you have a better way into Hollow Crest?" Reese asked. Silence. That was answer enough. The stranger stopped at a fork in the tunnel. Without a word, he pointed left, then right, offering a choice. Right sloped upward. Dry air drifted faintly from that direction. Left dipped into darkness. "What is this?" Tomas asked. "A test?" Maya looked to Reese. "It's a trap." Reese stepped toward the masked man. "Why lead us here?" The man tilted his head, then reached into his coat. Reese tensed, finger tightening on the trigger. But the man only pulled out a folded paper map and handed it over. Then he walked down the left tunnel, vanishing into the shadows. "What just happened?" Colt muttered. Reese unfolded the map. It was hand-drawn, detailed, and recent. The tunnel system snaked under Hollow Crest like veins beneath skin. "He showed us the safe path," Reese said. "Why?" Maya asked. Reese looked down the left tunnel. "Because he's staying here." They took the right passage, the one that sloped upward. The group moved slowly, flashlights low. Drips echoed in strange rhythms. Mold coated every surface. Rats skittered along cables overhead. Reese kept the map in hand, counting steps, turns, and markers. "Elise," he said, "you've been down here before?" She nodded. "Years ago. Before the outbreak was this bad. I used to move contraband. Guns. Medicine. You name it. And now? I'm trying to stay alive. Like the rest of you." But Reese wasn't sure he believed her. Not anymore. An hour later, they reached a wide chamber filled with rusted control panels and dead monitors. Torn fabric hung from the walls, covered in painted warnings. "Don't trust the surface. Blood opens the doors." Tomas shuddered. "What happened down here?" Maya gently laid Jess on an old blanket she pulled from her pack. The girl whimpered. "She needs rest," Maya whispered. "We all do." Colt moved toward a broken console. "This whole place feels cursed." Then a metallic clank echoed from deeper inside the tunnel. Everyone froze. Another clank. Louder. Closer. "Reese," Maya breathed. He motioned everyone into defensive positions. The sound grew louder, something dragging metal across concrete. Suddenly, the lights flickered on. Every single one. Tomas cried out and shielded his eyes. Reese turned toward the chamber entrance. What stepped through wasn't human. It was tall, skin stretched thin like wax over bone. Its jaw hung slack, mouth packed with wires and steel. One eye was human. The other, a glowing red lens. Mechanical limbs jutted from its back like spider legs. Jess whimpered. "What is that?" The creature sniffed the air, then turned its glowing eye toward them. Colt fired first, 3 sharp shots. The bullets tore into its chest. It didn't flinch. Reese yelled, "Scatter." The group broke into motion. Maya pulled Jess behind a metal console. Elise and Tomas dove into a service tunnel. Colt reloaded, but the creature moved faster than any of them expected, pouncing like a jaguar, knocking Colt across the room. His body hit a wall with a sickening crunch. "Colt!" Maya screamed. Reese grabbed a pipe from the ground and swung hard, catching the creature across the face. Sparks flew. It hissed, more machine than beast now. The stranger, the masked man from before, suddenly burst from a side corridor. He didn't hesitate. In one smooth motion, he jammed a javelin-like rod into the creature's back and twisted. The creature screamed. "Hi!" Metallic. Then it collapsed. The masked man stood over it, chest heaving. Reese stared. "Why did you come back?" The man pulled off his gas mask. His face was scarred, his left eye covered by a lens similar to the creature's. "I built them," he said hoarsely. "Long ago. Now I destroy them." They buried Colt in the chamber's corner. It wasn't much, but it was something. The stranger, who finally gave his name as Lars, explained the truth. "There's no sanctuary in Hollow Crest," he said. "There's a lab. Underground. The original infection site. They never stopped experimenting. They just got better at hiding." Maya looked at Jess. "And we're going toward that?" Reese shook his head. "We don't have a choice. Jess needs medicine. Real medicine." Lars pointed at the map. "There's a service lift just ahead. It'll take you to Sector B7. That's where the supplies are kept." Elise narrowed her eyes. "Why help us?" Lars didn't flinch. "Because Hollow Crest took someone from me too." Reese nodded. "Then let's finish this." End of Part 5. Let me know when you're ready for Part 6. The service lift groaned to life with a screech that echoed down the tunnel like a warning. Dust spiraled through the air, caught in the flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Lars pressed a sequence of buttons on the rusted control panel, fingers moving with precise muscle memory. "This takes us straight into the lower compound," he muttered. "Sector B7. Storage, containment, and what's left of the medical ward." Maya clutched Jess tightly. The girl's skin had turned gray, her breathing shallow and uneven. Every bump in the floor jostled her limp body like a rag doll. "She doesn't have much time," Maya whispered. Reese scanned the narrow shaft they descended. "Once we're in, what are we walking into?" Lars exhaled slowly. "That depends if the AI is still awake." "The AI?" Tomas blinked. "Are you saying a machine runs this place?" "It did. Probably still does," Lars said. "They called it Vega. Stood for viral engagement and genetic automation. Controlled the lab, the power, the locks. And the subjects." Elise stepped forward, skeptical. "Subjects?" Lars looked her dead in the eye. "The infected they kept. To study. To modify." The lift hit bottom with a heavy clang. The doors opened. A gust of cold, sterile air greeted them. They stepped into the ruins of a forgotten world. The hallway stretched into a grid of metallic corridors. White lights flickered along the ceiling, half dead, like the soul of the building had been trapped in endless malfunction. A mechanical voice hummed quietly from somewhere unseen. "Welcome to Echo Facility. Clearance required. Biological anomalies detected." Jess stirred in Maya's arms. Her eyes fluttered open briefly. Then closed again. Lars guided them through the labyrinth of hallways. Every door they passed was locked tight. On the walls, faded posters read, "For a brighter tomorrow, serve science. Containment is survival." They passed a glass room filled with overturned gurneys and broken syringes. Another with bite-marked hazmat suits scattered across the floor. Through one narrow window, Reese spotted a mass of rotting bodies, still strapped to hospital beds, their torsos twitching ever so slightly. "Sector B7 is this way," Lars said, voice low. But then the alarms blared. Red lights flooded the hall. Unauthorized bioforms detected. Security measures activated. Steel shutters slammed down behind them, sealing off their retreat. "Run," Lars barked. They sprinted through the corridors, Jess in Maya's arms, until they reached a massive steel door with a glowing red scanner. "It's voice-locked," Lars muttered. "Vega knows me. It might let me through." He stepped forward. "Vega," he said calmly. "This is Project Overseer Lars Viren. Requesting access to medical archive, code name, Mercy Vault." A beat of silence. Then the door hissed open. Inside was a storage room, dimly lit, humming with low power. Shelves of sealed crates lined the walls, each marked with codes and expiration dates. At the center sat a reinforced cabinet with a red cross etched into the glass. Maya rushed forward. "Is that it?" Lars opened the cabinet and pulled out several vials of clear blue liquid. "Experimental antivirals. Designed to slow the mutation. Maybe reverse early stages." Reese grabbed a syringe. "Will it work?" Lars didn't answer. They injected Jess. Her body seized, muscles locking up for a moment. Then she breathed, a real breath, and color slowly returned to her cheeks. Maya dropped to her knees in relief. But the moment was cut short. The far wall opened. A woman stepped through. Wearing a white lab coat, eyes dark with sleepless madness. "Elise," she said coldly. Everyone turned. Elise froze. The woman continued, "You weren't supposed to bring anyone here." Reese raised his rifle. "Who is this?" Elise's voice cracked. "My sister." The woman stepped into the light. Her ID badge read Dr. Evelyn Rios. "You promised to come alone," Evelyn said, hurt flickering beneath her expression. "I didn't have a choice," Elise snapped. "You promised me a cure. I gave you data. Access. And in return, you bring outsiders? Security will purge this sector within minutes." Lars stepped between them. "She told us this place was abandoned." "She lied," Evelyn said. "We've been operating in shadows for years. Every survivor that gets too close is either converted or erased." Tomas whispered, "This isn't a lab. It's a tomb." Reese aimed his rifle. "Step aside." But Evelyn smiled. "You won't get far. Vega is awake. It sees everything. And it's about to correct your presence." Suddenly, the overhead lights shut off. Only emergency red lights remained. Evelyn turned and vanished into the shadows. A new voice spoke, crisp, female, and utterly devoid of emotion. "Unauthorized extraction of classified antiviral. Purge sequence initiated. Lockdown in 60 seconds. Lars cursed. "We need to reach the backup shaft. It's the only way out now." Maya clutched Jess. "She's stable. But we can't outrun another creature like before." Reese narrowed his eyes. "We won't run." "What do you mean?" Elise asked. He turned to Lars. "You said Vega runs this place?" Lars nodded. "Yes." Reese checked his gear. "Then we shut her down." End of Part 6. Let me know when you're ready for Part 7, Shutdown Protocol. The sirens wailed louder now, like the cries of a dying beast trapped beneath concrete. Red strobes bathed the corridor in warning light. Jess moaned softly in Maya's arms, but her color was returning, proof the antiviral had worked. That one victory gave them the strength to run again. "Where's the core, Lars?" Reese barked as he led the group through the maze-like hallways. Lars moved fast despite his limp. "North wing. Sub-basement level. There's a physical override buried under 4 inches of steel. Designed to be unreachable." Reese growled, "Then we make it reachable." Behind them, doors slammed shut one after another. 40 seconds to sector purge. Vega's calm voice echoed from the walls. "Releasing neutralization units." Tomas skidded to a stop. What the hell does that mean? A hiss of pressurized gas answered him. From a ceiling hatch ahead, something dropped. It wasn't a zombie. It wasn't even human. It was a machine. A sleek bipedal bot with reinforced plating and glowing red joints. Its face was an empty oval of metal, a single sensor eye rotating slowly toward them. Lars whispered, "Vega's cleaners. They don't stop." The bot raised its arm, unfolding a retractable blade. Reese shouted, "Down." The blade swung through the air as the group ducked. Elise fired first, 2 bullets straight into its eye. The bot stumbled but didn't fall. Tomas leapt forward with a wrench and smashed it into the back of the machine's head. Sparks burst. The bot froze. Then collapsed. They didn't wait. As they ran, Elise pulled Reese aside for a moment. "We can't trust Lars. You know that, right?" Reese didn't answer. He didn't need to. Trust was a currency they no longer had. But they needed Lars's knowledge. They reached a metal staircase leading down to the sub-basement. The air changed again, colder, heavier, thick with the scent of oil and metal decay. "This is it," Lars muttered. "Cores below." They descended cautiously. The core chamber was massive. A cylindrical supercomputer tower stood in the center, pulsing with blue energy. Thick cables ran from the tower like veins, disappearing into the walls and floor. "Vega lives here," Lars said. "This is where she was born. And where she'll die." Maya laid Jess gently on the floor, wrapping her in blankets. "She's still stable. We do this fast and we get out." Reese approached the central console. "How do we kill it?" Lars tossed him a heavy fuse key. "Insert this into the manual override at the tower base. Then flip the breaker. Everything, Vega, the bots, the surveillance, shuts down." "What's the catch?" Elise asked. Lars hesitated. "The override's inside the inner core. You'll have to open the casing. Once it begins, the entire sector goes dark. Backup power dies. Life support, lights, everything." Tomas looked around. "So, we're blind after?" "Worse," Lars added. "We'll be locked in." Reese didn't flinch. He took the fuse and approached the glowing tower. Vega's voice returned, colder than ever. "Override key detected. Tampering constitutes a Class 1 threat." A loud clang echoed from the far wall. A hidden door slid open. Out stepped a second bot. This one was bigger. And it brought friends. 3 more machines emerged, each armed with buzzsaws and bladed limbs. Their eyes glowed with intent. Not mindless. Not rage-driven. Purpose-built. Lars pulled a grenade from his coat. "Go, now!" He pulled the pin and threw it. The explosion rocked the chamber, knocking 2 bots into the wall. Reese reached the core. He pried open the metal casing and slammed the fuse into place. Sparks flew. The core groaned as energy surged and systems protested. Vega screamed, not in words, but in static. System failure. Core breach imminent. He grabbed the breaker switch. "Everyone hold on to something." He flipped it. Everything died. Lights. Sirens. Screens. Total blackout. Silence filled the chamber. Then came the creaks. Distant, slow, steady, like something waking up. Flashlights. Reese called. Maya lit hers. The beam swept across the wrecked bots. 2 were still twitching. Tomas crushed the last one with a pipe, breathing hard. Elise knelt by Jess. Still breathing. Still okay. Lars leaned against a wall, blood leaking from his side. Vega's dead. But it won't save this place. Only buys you time. Reese turned to him. "You're not coming, are you?" Lars shook his head slowly. "Someone has to seal the emergency locks. You wouldn't make it otherwise." You sure? Lars offered a half-smile. I built this nightmare. Feels right I stay buried in it. Maya reached for his hand. You saved her. That matters. Lars didn't speak. He just nodded. Then he limped back toward the breaker controls. Reese led the others up the stairs toward a faint patch of daylight from a collapsed shaft above. As they climbed, Reese looked down one last time. Lars was gone. Buried in the dark with the ghosts he made. They emerged onto the surface as the first light of morning broke the clouds. The air smelled like rain and rust, but it was air. Jess opened her eyes. Where are we? Reese smiled. Free. End of Part 7. Let me know when you're ready for the grand finale, Part 8, the last line between the living and the dead. You. Dawn painted the sky in streaks of orange and ash gray, breaking through the smog that clung to the ruins of dead America. The group trudged across broken concrete and overgrown highway medians, leaving the Echo facility behind them, buried under steel, secrets, and the sacrifice of a man none of them fully trusted, but all now respected. Jess walked on her own again. Pale, still weak, but alive. Maya held her hand like it was the last lifeline left in the world. Reese kept his rifle ready, scanning the treeline. We need shelter. Food. A place to regroup. Tomas pointed to an overpass in the distance. Might be a route station. We can hole up, decide what's next. Elise walked at the back of the group, silent since they had surfaced. Her sister, Evelyn, hadn't followed them. Whether she was dead beneath the rubble or hiding in the compound's shadows, no one asked. No one wanted to know. But Elise carried the weight of that silence like a second shadow. The outpost by the overpass was barely standing. A burned-out van rested against the wall, its tires melted to the pavement. Empty bullet casings littered the entrance. Bloodstains marked the path like warnings from the past. Inside, the building was cold and dead. A few overturned tables. Ripped maps. A generator that coughed before sputtering into a reluctant hum, casting a soft light over the room. They barricaded the doors and sat in a circle. I didn't think we'd make it, Tomas admitted. Not really. You still might not, Reese replied flatly, then softened his voice. But we've got something we didn't before. Jess looked up. Hope? No, Reese said. Time. Maya nodded. And information. The antiviral worked. We've seen it. Elise stepped forward, unzipping her backpack. Not just seen it. I took every drive I could grab on the way out. Research logs, video files, dosage trials. Reese raised an eyebrow. Why? Elise hesitated. Because we can't survive on hope. But we can survive on what we know. She spread the drives out on the dusty table. If we get this to the right people, there's a chance to replicate it. Mass produce it. Save more than just Jess. Tomas whistled low. That's a big if. Maya tightened her grip on her daughter. But it's enough to keep going. They fell into silence for a few moments. Not out of despair, but out of something else. A fragile understanding. That survival was no longer the finish line. It was the beginning of something much harder. Night fell slowly. Reese stood watch at the window, the sky slowly swallowing the last of the daylight. He could hear the wind rustling through broken trees, far-off cries that might have been birds, or not. Then he saw it. A lone figure walking up the highway. He raised his scope. Not infected. Not dragging. Walking with purpose. Elise, he called softly. You might want to see this. She joined him at the window. Her breath caught. It was Evelyn. She was covered in soot and blood. A bandage wrapped her arm, but she held no weapon. No backup. Let her in. Reese asked. Elise stared for a long moment. Then nodded once. Evelyn stepped into the light of the outpost's lanterns. Her eyes flicked across the group, settling briefly on her sister. I shut down what I could, she said hoarsely. Before Vega fell. Took some code fragments. They might help. Or they might be trash. I don't know anymore. Elise whispered, why? Evelyn looked tired. Because I remembered what it felt like, to believe in something. And I want to try again. Even if I don't deserve it. Reese didn't lower his rifle. You were going to let us die. I still might, Evelyn said with a bitter smirk. But not today. Jess walked over to her and held out a small piece of bread. Evelyn blinked. Then took it. The fire crackled quietly as the night deepened. Everyone sat around it, the silence no longer threatening, but necessary. Like the exhale after a held breath. Maya leaned into Reese. So what now? He watched the fire. Now we find the others. People still holding out. People still fighting. And the infected? Tomas asked. Reese looked him dead in the eye. We fight back. Smarter this time. Not like rats in corners. Elise lifted one of the drives. And maybe, we find a way to fix what was broken. Outside, the wind howled across a dead world, but inside that outpost, something stubborn had taken root. Not just survival. But unity. Not just fear. But choice. Because in a world where the dead hunted the living, and the living hunted each other, it wasn't always clear who the enemy was. But tonight, in that outpost at the edge of ruin, one truth stood clear. The line between ally and enemy wasn't drawn in blood or virus. It was drawn in the choices they made now. And tomorrow, that line would be tested again. End of Part 8. Let me know if you'd like a full thumbnail prompt, audio script version, or a new title to begin.